Hey guys, the name is Kris Barocsi. Welcome to Comment Time. This is my Q&A series where I try to react or answer the most interesting questions and comments you guys have. Yes, I cut my hair. I went for the Bruce Willis look. And I also got fed up with styling it all the time and whatever, spending too much time on not a lot of hair, to be honest. You guys had some incredible questions. I'm so looking forward to answering a couple of them. Let's get into it. I shot a video about wood and pickups, which went pretty well, I think, and the reactions are insane. It's so cool to have so many comments. I don't usually read out compliments here in my comment time video, but you know, still, it's Music Hyde writing awesome video. Thank you for all the hard work you put into it. Thank you for appreciating it, really. And to all of you guys, there were quite a few compliments and I'm extremely happy about it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It was a lot of work. It took me a whole day to shoot it because of swapping pickups and soldering in and out stuff. And yeah, so it was quite an action, but it was definitely worth doing it. And I also wanted to hear the differences. And luckily you guys appreciated it. So I couldn't be happier. There was one guy, Jose Araujo, I am so sorry if I mispronounce your name, who was clearly not convinced by the video. Guitar pickups pick variations in the magnetic fields. Wood has nothing to do. Simple tests you can do without all the work of changing parts. 1. Use nylon strings and see if you get any sound out of the amp. 2. Pick the guitar with the neck against a wall. You will hear the difference in the resonance of the body, but the sound that comes through the amp does not change. 4. Whatever happened to 3. 4. Use a rubber mallet and hit gently your guitar. See if you get any sound of it in the amp. That's one of the main things people who don't agree with wood affecting the tone of an electric guitar, solid body electric guitar, is what they're saying, you know, the pickups are magnetic pickups. These are not microphones, so they will not pick up the acoustic sound of the guitar. Jose's points, number 1 with the nylon strings. Obviously there is no sound coming out of the amp if you're using nylon strings because nylon strings are not magnetic. Number 2, pushing the guitar against a wall, that the resonance changes. Yes, of course, that's projection of the guitar's own resonance, you know, on the wall. So it will make an acoustic difference in the room, but that's not a real connection. If you glue a huge piece of wood, you know, here and there in your guitar and connect big surfaces on the headstock and on the body and whatever, that will probably change the resonance of the guitar and the overall reaction, but just pushing it against the wall will not really do anything. Point number 4 was hitting the guitar softly with something and see if, you know, some sort of a sound comes out of the amp. As long as the pickups are not microphonic, you will obviously not have any sound. I get your points, but you're trying to prove that a magnetic pickup is a magnetic pickup. And it is. You know, no one's arguing. Everything on the guitar will change the way the strings vibrate. You know, the bridge, your knot, even your tuners, I guess, not a huge percentage, but still, you know, obviously wood and fret material and everything. Magnetic pickups will pick up the strings movement, you know, the change in the magnetic field of the pickup caused by the strings moving, of course. But the movement, the vibration of the strings are heavily affected by everything that's on the guitar. You know, everything that's underneath or around the strings. So a magnetic pickup is obviously not a microphone. It doesn't pick up waves the same way, you know, like a microphone would. Those pieces of wood, you know, your body, your neck, those are absorbing some frequencies and changing the way how the strings vibrate. And that change is exactly what I mean. You know, that goes through the magnetic pickups because why wouldn't it? It's not a microphone. It doesn't hear what we hear, but it reacts to that change in the vibration of the strings. The Gospel of Mark writes, I thought for sure that Andy's guitar sounded more mid-rangey and yours had more low-end. With the pickup change, Andy's guitar was still more mid-rangey and less low-end than yours, but maybe sounded slightly different but not the same as yours. Tonewood is a thing. I also couldn't believe how much of the character of Andy's guitar was still in Andy's guitar after swapping everything except for wood, fret job, and the headstock, the nut and the headstock. And I really wish that everyone who sticks to writing scientific explanations of why wood will not affect the tone would just close their eyes, put on a good pair of headphones, and listen to these differences, because it speaks for itself. Bruno Roca. Happy New Year, Kris. Happy New Year, bro. I have a question for you. Since you have so much experience with guitars, I wonder what's your opinion about a one-piece body versus multiple pieces? Does it change the guitar's resonance sound? I'm planning to build a parts guitar, so I can't try the guitar before buying it. And the internet is full with opposite opinions. Keep up with the good videos. I've been seeing them all. So cool, Bruno. Thank you very, very, very much. Well, I have some experience, but I'm not like almighty, whatever. My experience is that it doesn't really matter. Like, of course, if you have like a plywood body, that's not gonna work. As long as you have like a 2, 3, 4 piece body, and the pieces, the stripes of wood work well together, it doesn't really matter. There are even luthiers who would say that a 3-piece is even better than like a 1-piece body. My Strat has a 3-piece body, and it's insanely good. And I even had an 80s Japanese built Squire, which had 4 pieces of outer, and I was really disappointed when I figured that out, because obviously I had to remove the finish to put nitro on it, because that's just what I like doing. And then I've seen like, oh my god, this is like a 4-piece body. Oh no, what did I buy? And then I just ignored the fact, refinished it, put the guitar back together, and it's such a good guitar. You shouldn't be afraid of having like, a 3-piece body or something. It's just the looks, it's more elegant to have like a 2-piece body with the glue joint right in the middle. Jose had a second comment, a couple of comments, but this second one is also really interesting. An amazing number of myths in the guitar world, from which the vintage guitars is probably the worst. Because, for example, while you can make a modern guitar and sound like a vintage one by sculpting the tone, you can't make a vintage guitar sound like a modern one, because a significant part of the frequencies is not picked up by the much less efficient pickups used back in the days, and the effects of age in the electronics. Same goes for amps and valves. It really doesn't matter what people say on the internet, and especially in forums, which are very dangerous places, because everyone seems to know everything. Vintage guitars are not always good. Not at all. There are some flat sounding ones, some really dull sounding ones, many are not nice to play, blah, blah, blah. But there are quite a few insanely good vintage guitars. I had the chance to go to Guitar Point, which is a very nice vintage guitar store in Germany, a couple of months ago. Check out the video, it's right above my head. All I experienced was that these old guitars sound very different to modern guitars. I had the chance to compare like 64, whatever it was, reissue custom shop Strat was an incredibly good guitar with original 64s, not even one, but 2 original 64s. I had my Les Paul there while we were shooting the video, and they had a 59, original 1959 Les Paul Burst, and a 60s. I played both, and both were very different, and both of them were totally different to mine. So 2 vintage guitars sounded different, and both vintage guitars sounded totally different than my 3-year-old custom shop. I couldn't possibly imagine why someone would say it's easy to achieve a vintage guitar's sound with a modern guitar. Not at all. There are, of course, a couple of other things that are important about vintage guitars, and that's the feel and that's the looks. You know, not just the sound. It was so interesting to see how I changed my playing. You know, playing that old Les Paul or a 58 Tele, I think it was a 58, or that old ES 330 or 50s Strat. You know, they played so differently, and I adjusted myself and played in a different manner. So it's not only the sound that is important about vintage guitars, it's also the feel. Michael B. Great video and unique, but I am not clear what the difference is in wood are. Are these not both mahogany body with maple tops? Looks like Andy's is an ebony board and yours is a rosewood board. My preference is the sound of Andy's guitar. More acoustic and less crisp, but that works nicely for me. Of course, people have to be aware these are pretty expensive guitars. Here in Canada, those are clocking in at over 5,000 Canadian dollars, which is a bit crazy in my opinion. So do you mention what the Tonewoods are on these guitars? I do not recall seeing that. Hey Michael, and thanks for the comment. The specs are mahogany neck, a really chunky neck. It's a 58 reissue, I mean both of them. A rosewood board on both of them. One piece mahogany back of the body and two piece flamey maple. You know, these are 58s, so they don't have the craziest flames on them, but flame maple still, you know, so two piece flame maple top. That's all. So the guitars are on paper absolutely identical. I wanted to show that wood species, wood types can be relevant, but they're not always relevant. There will be pieces of mahogany that are less dense and lighter, and they will sound closer to whatever, ash or alder. And there are some pieces of alder that are so soft and so light that they come very close to basswood. So it's really hard to set those borderlines. That's why I also told in the video, don't worry about wood species that much. What is way more important than that is wood quality. That's the only thing that I think people should focus on. Mr. Glandini writes, so both are made from the same type of wood, but had different tonal characteristics. So there is a difference, but you can't predict the difference based on type of tone wood. You are perfectly right, Mr. Glandini. You cannot really predict. You can expect something. It will be in a sort of a ballpark. That's why we buy guitars all the time and sell them and buy a new one and sell them. You know, you have to spend some time with a guitar to get to know it, to see how it works in different situations. Of course, you should not dig real deep in this wormhole and just get lost in it and lose interest in playing and only hunt for details and tones and, oh, I think I heard something. You know, that's fun, but only as long as it helps you stay motivated to play more. Superconductor wrote, very cool experiment, Kris. Now I'm wondering what the results would be with direct-to-the-body mounted pickups. Also, did you have an overall in-room preference between the two? Over YouTube, I preferred Andy's guitar in stock form. I never had the chance to compare these two things. Like, I never had a guitar with direct mount pickups where I then swapped to pickup rings. I don't know if that makes a difference at all, to be honest. Could be, and feel free to argue with me. If these pickups are mounted directly into the wood or just sit on top of it, you know, mounted on a ring, a plastic ring or whatever, I don't think that makes a huge difference because these are not microphones, so, you know, and they're also not piezo pickups, which pick up vibration of the wood or anything. They just react to the strings movement. Jasmine Bellawans, or Yasmin Bellawans. I am so sorry, Yasmin. I've stopped modifying my guitars when I realized that it's a waste of money. The search for a new instrument gets more interesting that way, long and complex, but more fun and rewarding. Yeah, absolutely. You know, you really do not have to modify guitars all the time and, you know, hunt tone at all. If it's fun for you to do so and swap pickups and change capacitors on your tone pot and whatever, and it motivates you to play even more, you should definitely do it. If it gets on your nerves, takes all your money and sort of depresses you, you should definitely not do it. But I think it's also very important to be in charge of your tone and being very aware of every detail, because it makes you play differently. I immediately play better if I enjoy my sound. So for me, and for quite a few people I also know, it is very important to know what's going on, to have the feeling that I can control my sound. I can make sure that I will sound a certain way, and that way I can make sure that I will play as good as I can. This has to be the coolest YouTube username. Gangjang, Gongjang commented under my Harley Benton Fusion 2 video. I was listening to the audio only at first and thought you were playing a Strat with single coil neck pickup. How did you get that humbucker to sound like a single coil? Or was it the split setting? It sounded like a legit neck single coil. I missed the neck single coil tone and I'm trying to get closer to it with humbucker guitars. Which pickups would you recommend that have Stratty sounds but will fit flush in a body cut for HH config? Yes, of course, I had to split the humbucker to get that sound, and that exact sound is the reason why I still have the original pickups in the guitar, because it splits incredibly well. Awesome humbuckers that split really well. I will need your help, guys. Please comment on this in the comment section. Let us know what you think are really good for that. I had an EVH Wolfgang, and even though in the original state the pickups have only 2 cables, but the rest, the other 2, are also in there, so you can open that up and use it as a 4-cable normal 4-cable humbucker. And I used the split sound of that and I loved it. So the EVH Wolfgang pickup would be one of my recommendations. Sur Thornbucker, they do have an incredibly good split sound. I would definitely recommend those 2. Not cheap, unfortunately, but really, really good. There are some Seymour Duncans, like the Custom 59 it's called, I think. That's like a mixture of 2 coils, like their normal Seymour Duncan 59 pickup, the SH1 I think, and their custom, whichever, something that's higher output. And those 2 coils are paired, so it's very uneven. If you split humbuckers, one of the coils, the weaker one, will end up being on ground, which means that gets bypassed basically. And the stronger coil is the one that's going to be still active. And if this stronger coil is a pretty strong coil, like with this Custom 59, you will have a pretty rich and nice sounding split sound. Or of course, the Fishman Fluence pickups, which is a total different story. Active pickups, very different kind of construction, but those also have incredible humbucker and split sounds, and even a third sound in many cases. So if you go for the classic humbuckers, the Alnico ones, I love those. So that would be also a very nice idea to try out. Stanislav Migra commented under my pedal overdrive versus amp overdrive video. I've heard a lot lately about clean high headroom pedal platform, but I'm not exactly getting this idea. I'm most comfortable with an amp that can break a bit on its own, so when I put anything boosty in front of it, the amp starts to crunch. Because if there's too much clean headroom, drives, distortions, fuzz pedals sound to me too artificial. I totally get it. My rev is also on the limit of getting crunchy on its own already. To be honest, with humbucker guitars, it even starts to crunch already on the clean channel. So I also enjoyed that, edge of breakup kind of amp setting. But I also experienced an amp not very long time ago, which was the opposite. It had such an insane amount of headroom, like didn't want to break up no matter how hard, I digged in. And it was the Magnatone something super fidelity stereo amp. I'm not sure what the name is. I will blend it in right here. Yeah, so that one. I tried it at Thomann. It's in the showroom. And I so want that amp. And it didn't sound artificial. It didn't sound weird or fizzy or anything. I put a fuzz in front of it. I put several overdrives already in front of it. It can work. it just depends on the amp. If you stick an overdrive in front of a twin reverb or a deluxe reverb, it's even more picky with overdrives. It will sound very fizzy and sort of not natural, but that's because of those amps are really picky with overdrives. So Fender amps, except for the Blues Deluxe and the Hot Rod Deluxe, they're not the easiest amps to stick an overdrive pedal in front of them. And that's not because of the headroom, that's more because of the voicing and the character of the amps. Superconductor. Hi Kris, brilliant video, gave me a lot to think about. First, yes on more spongy pedal reviews. Second, I'm really interested to know how analog pedals with digital effects like Line 6 would work with tube amps. I've experimented with my Katana Artist effects loop to my PV Classic 50 head and got really good results. So I'm really curious about mixing analog and digital for a guitar tone. It's a no-brainer. Use whatever sounds right to you. Especially nowadays, all these simulations, all these emulations, all these impulse responses, and all these whatever captures of analog sounds are incredible. So in many cases, no one could, as a listener, no one could tell the difference. As a player, well then there are two types of players. One would say, I feel the latency, and that's really bugging me. It's not enough direct anymore. And that's because of the ADDA conversion going on in that unit. And the other group of players will say, yeah, no, it really doesn't bug me, so why not using it? I mean, you know, I'm more for analog. If it's possible, if I can get the sounds out of analog pedals and amps and whatever, I will go for that. Still, you know, I love digital stuff as well. I mean, come on, I'm using my aux all the time. It's like in every video I shoot, instead of miking my cab, I use the aux because it sounds incredible, because it doesn't change the way I play, because it doesn't stop motivating me and inspiring me while I'm playing, and you know, it's a fantastic piece of gear. The same thing with my Source Audio Nemesis delay pedal, which doesn't leave the dry signal analog. It also gets digitalized. It's awesome. It's, you know, you turn it on and it sounds better than without. So why bother? You know what I mean? The only issue with digital effects in your signal chain can only be if you use a wet-dry setup. That's exactly what I realized in the summer of 2019, last year. I played a show for Thomann which was called Live at the Lake. We played a pretty cool set with the Thomann host band on the lake in front of the Thomann showroom. And it was a floating stage. It's an incredible show. It went real well. So if you want to check it out, here's a link. But also, I was running a wet-dry setup. So I had my rev for dry, I had my Mesa with this cab for wet, and I split my signal. So my drive pedals went into both amps, and my tremolo, my delay, all these kind of stuff only went into the Mesa. And because the Nemesis is digital, and it does have a certain amount of latency, because of this ADDA process, the phase relation changed. You know, as soon as I turned it on, it just slightly got not out of phase, but it sounded different. You know, it felt like I moved 2 meters to the right or to the left. That is very important to know, that if you run, for example, a wet-dry setup, that's not very common, I know. It's just something you should think about in case you're planning on doing something like this. This one is from Pooh Ninja. Hey Ninja! He commented this under my Nick Johnston lick video in the Licks with Kris series. Free masterclass classic. What's in the blue drawer? Blues drivers? Well, first of all, nope. And second of all, it's not blue. It's seafoam green-ish. I mean, that was the plan, and then I messed up the color, of course, when I finished it. Yeah, so I repainted it now, so I have 3 of these. Check this out. These are actual pots. And of course, all of them are on 10, obviously. So what's in it? Oh, very interesting stuff, like, yeah, soldering, iron, and just stuff, lots of stuff, way too many stuff. Yeah, like my badges from all different gigs. This is from 2013 in Dortmund. Oh my god. Wow. Yeah, NAMM show badges and all sorts of, you know, it's from 2014. All sorts of badges and speaker cables and boring stuff. Okay guys, thank you very much for watching this video and all my other videos as well. I appreciate it a lot. You guys take it easy. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment section. And I'll come back very soon with another video. See you.